I wanted to talk with you a little bit. What is happening with our favorite part of the week, the punching parlay season two? You are struggling a little bit here after killing it in the first season 10-0. This season, it's not so fortunate.
This season has been horrible. There's literally no excuses. Not much has changed. I think it's just time and a place. The cards, I'm not gonna lie, the cards have been real tough, and a lot of the fights that they've put together over the past couple of months, we have seen a lot of close stylistic matchups. So that could probably be my only excuse, really. I don't like to give excuses. Look, we're here to give tips and break down fights, and I'll do that to my best ability. If it wasn't for the success in season one, personally, I probably would have stopped doing it by now. But due to the success in season one and the success that I have in parlays long term, yeah, I'll be glad to end season two, put it that way, and hopefully season three we can do a 10-0 again. But yeah, if it keeps going down the same path, might have to switch it up and maybe try something else, because yeah, as you said, this season of the Punch and Parlay has gone downhill. But it's also not a position where you want to start fading the Punch and Parlay either, because although it is losing, it is only losing by one every week. So it's just
This
that
is
annoying.
this is what I wanted.
Oh,
This
this is
is
what I
what I
want.
wanted to ask you. He's losing by one every week. This is unlucky, if you ask me. This is not. You shouldn't stop doing that. Even if you lose the season two, you won the season one 10-0, and I think that you should continue to put your hard work, because you are working so much week in and week out for these articles and for these roundowns. I don't know. All the odds market team, all the tipsters are working hard, very hard, to bring you guys the best content, the best betting tips. We are a family here. We specialized in different sports, and we have Dave here who is killing it. Doesn't matter if his punching parlay is not successful in season two, but the dogs and their odds is cashing week in and week out. So if you want to do that, fade the punching parlay, but play the dogs and the roads. You are doing an
It's funny.
exceptional job
It's
with that article.
Yeah, it's real funny because it's like they don't they have done well together. Because really, dogs and the odds has only had two losing weeks where all the dogs have lost, and I think now I've probably wrote anywhere from 25 to around 40 dogs and their odds articles. So if you can talk shit about the punch and parlay, but let's look at the winners, because I'm still up 73 units. Dogs and their odds, I'm still cashing underdogs every week. I'm losing a unit, more than a unit last week, because I put more on last week than I usually do, because I was really confident in last week's. But it goes to show with fighting. Fighting is and I'll say this and I'll always say this, fighting, other than baseball, is probably the hardest sports handicap on the planet. The bet that cost us last week, he got knocked out instantly. We didn't even really have a chance to see what a good fighter he is. All that we got shown from that fight was he got caught off guard and got knocked out. It was unfortunate. It was really unfortunate, because for one, he was the younger fighter. He was going to be the stronger fighter. He's the more active fighter. And if Uriah Faber hadn't have knocked out Ricky Simone within that first minute of the fight, we definitely would have saw Ricky Simone take over and win that fight by decision. I have no doubt in my mind. But yeah, we just have to keep on grinding and hope that the luck does swing back our way with the Punch and Parlay. It's ever since I started doing graphics, Alex. I started making graphics for the Punch and Parlay, and then that was it. That's it. It just started losing, and I'm like, whoa! All I've done is put a little bit of effort into the graphics. Like, who's against me here? The MMA gods are against me on the
It's
Punch and
okay,
Parlay.
mate.
So
I know that you're an excellent capper. Great. You're doing a great job week in and week out. and it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We might have losing weeks. We might have losing months. But as I like to say, the tough job is to be on plus at the end of the season, and we are there every fucking time. So let's talk
Every
about
time.
San Antonio a little bit here.
Yes.
I heard Jason at the Sports Gig CEO that he was saying that he doesn't like this card. He wrote an article for Odds Market with a main event here, previewing the main event, Don Anjos versus Edwards here, and he really likes the looks of Leon Edwards to win at 1.886. How do you feel about this main event?
Right. So first off, I'll let everyone know that I probably won't be placing a bet on this one, just because the odds on Edwards. I like Edwards to win for starters, but the odds, in my opinion, it should be a straight pick 'em. But we're looking at Leon Edwards. I think he's sitting at 172 at Bet365. See, European bookmakers seem to be giving a lot more respect to Leon Edwards, and I'm seeing a lot of low odds on him. So I'm seeing 1.72, 1.74. But if I take a look at the American books, if you go to Sports International, you can get 1.83. So if you can get 1.83, I would put a unit on Leon Edwards. 1.72, I think it's not worth it. It's a lot of points difference, and it is stylistically, it's a close fight. They can both grapple, they can both strike. It's funny. Leon lives well. He was born 20 minutes from where I am. He's from Birmingham. He's flew under the radar in the UFC basically his entire career. He's been here for a long time now, and he's beat some serious people. But because a lot of his fights have come by decision, he didn't make his mark in the media. So he hasn't had highlight reels of knockouts, and he hasn't had like devastating finishes within the first round and stuff like that. So it's easy for him to fly under the radar and for people to count him out. But yeah, I agree with Jay. I do lean with Leon. He's the younger fighter. He's taller. He has the reach advantage. What else could back there? The way that Leon Edwards has dealt with Donald Cerrone. I think Jay mentioned this in his article. Not many people can handle Donald Cerrone the way Leon did. And even though Dos Anjos also fought Cerrone and beat him by knockout, I still think Leon put on the better performance. And yeah, I think the favorite is in the correct spot this week. But because I don't like the price and I have a certain amount of units already spread out across the card, I probably won't be placing a bet on him. But there's a good chance that if Rafael can maybe dominate for the first half of the first round or even the first minute, I can jump in and catch him in play on the live betting.
And I know.
Live betting
Plus, I know that you don't like to bet against Jason. I know that you guys prefer not to talk about the articles that you've written. So to go against him, like now, I would ask you about the main event. You will say to me, Don Anjos is the play here. And it's a kind of disrespect. I can hear that. But let me tell you, also on the European bookies, Edwards opened at 1.9 with bet at home, and at 2.03 with 1xbet here there. So yeah, maybe everyone jumped on Edwards, and the line moved, and the odds dropped significantly. But let's talk about a little bit about the dogs and their odds for this week. And let me ask you something. Greg Hardy versus Juan Adams. 1.9, 1.9, both of them. Very evenly match there. Why you consider this fight why you are, who is the underdog in this fight, and why is he the underdog? Because they are both on the same line. Why you
Yeah,
included this fight on such an article?
I'm glad you brought this up because I did want to talk about this fight. Greg Hardy versus Joanne Adams. Big boys, heavyweights. I'd say there's a 90% chance this fight is going to end by knockout. And this is a pick'em, and there isn't a favorite. The line has, it's been moving up and down just between favorite, underdog, favorite. Some books have Hardy as the favorite, some have Adams as the favorite. And they've nailed it. It is a pick'em. So we have to look into other areas of these fighters where we can see an advantage. And this week, I feel that this is I like this player a lot. Outside of the octagon, Greg Hardy has took a lot of slack, and I think that a lot of people they just don't like him as a person. If you have a history of, abuse towards women or anything like that, you are not going to stand much chance in the media in a combat sport. The guy is like 6'6" and weighs about 20 stone. So, when you see cases in the news where somebody has, not been very nice to their spouse, it's going to affect you, and that's affected Greg Hardy, and that has followed him no matter where he has been. He used to play in the NFL, but this fight, back to this fight anyway. I'm going off point here. He trains with American Top Team. That's what I like. He has the best fighters in the world and the best coaches in the world training him. Not only that, he was already an athlete. He has that athletic, explosive power. Now, don't get me wrong, Joanne Adams is a great wrestler, and he has probably the equal amount of power. He's the same size. They're both huge. It's going to be War of the Giants at the weekend. It's there's gonna be a knockout. I just know there's gonna be a knockout. It's funny because neither of the fighters have ever been knocked out. Neither of them have ever been finished, but both fighters, all of their wins have came by knockout. So yeah, and Adams is also returning after his first loss. Greg Hardy is still undefeated. Both fighters are very green, and they're still fresh to the sport. So it's not something I'm gonna, be like, put 2-3 units. No. I have half a unit on Greg Hardy to win, based on the team behind him, and I just feel like he's gonna have the advantage with progressing quicker in the sport, and that's basically what I'm basing my play off this week. The price and Greg Hardy's team behind him. It's funny though, because Joanne Adams is also bringing in emotions to this fight. He doesn't like Greg Hardy. He has been trying to fight Greg Hardy for the majority of his career, I think, which isn't a long one, but in the smaller promotions prior to UFC, he tried to get himself booked up with Greg. Greg's team avoided it. They then went to both fight on the Contender Series, which is basically it's like a camp for fighters to, showcase their skills and potentially get a contract in the UFC. They both went on the Contender Series. Once again, Greg Hardy didn't want to fight him, so they had different fights with other fighters. They both won. They both earned the contract. Now they're both here in UFC, and for some reason, Greg Hardy's team have now decided to take the fight. I think they have decided to take this fight because they have seen the flaws in Joanne Adams' game that Greg can capitalize on, and I think they believe that Greg will knock him out and do it quite convincingly. So, yeah.
2.05 at Pinnacle right now for Hardy to win the match against Adams.
Nice.
Huge odds right now. Or 2.03 at BetHeart, 2.0 at Bet365, 1.91 at William Hill, 1.9 at Unibet. So depending what bookie available you have for your betting tips, I would like to mention that my advice is to have multiple bookies, not to have problems if you are winning better, not to have problem with closing accounts and stuff like that, because bookies usually do that. Okay, second fight from this article. I really like to read all the time your Dogs and the Roads articles. James Vick versus Dan Hooker. Tell us about this fight and your best bet for this one.
Yeah, very, very similar in regards to reasons why I like this play to the previous fight, and that'll be down to the odds. I don't understand why James Vick is coming in at 230. This fight should be a pick-'em. I can't favour either fighter. It's straight down the middle for me in this one. There's nothing outside of these guys' records that is telling me one is a clear favourite than the other. Not only that, Dan Hooker's previous fight, and we've seen this in the past a lot, where a fighter will have the confidence beaten out of him. And Dan Hooker wasn't doing too bad in the UFC, and to be honest, I liked him. I had high hopes for Dan, but the beating that he took in his last fight was pretty bad. I think he'd gone on a 4-fight win streak. He hadn't beaten champions and stuff, but he beat some legit guys. He took out Ross Pearson. He took out Mark Diakase. Another legend, Jim Miller, he beat. And then they upped the level in competition, and they gave him Edson Barboza back in December. And the fight should have been stopped. I don't agree with how the referee handled that fight. I also think corners should get involved more and stop their fighters from having the crap beaten out of them. Dan's body is a tough guy. His body fought through it. You will see guys take a shot to the stomach and their body will break down and the fight will be over. You'll also see fighters being so tough that they just take it and take it and take it. And Dan Hooker was anybody that has access to Fight Pass or even YouTube.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dave. Your camera froze and we need to call you back.
Oh, okay.
We can hear you, but we cannot see you properly.
Okay.
Yeah, till Dave is back, I would like to tell you that he's writing 3 articles per week for all the UFC events. Next week, obviously, we have the UFC 240 with Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar as the main event, and Chris Cyborg and Felicia Spencer as the co-main event. Also, Jason Paglia, at the Sports Keg CEO. You can find him on Twitter. He's writing for Odds Market some brilliant UFC articles and giving us winning tips week in and week out. Hopefully Rafa will solve it fast with Dave, because we want him to talk about more about this fight, why he's picking James Vick at 2.3 with Bet365 in one of his underdogs bets for this card, UFC on ESPN 4. But also I wanted to ask him more, and I wanted him to give me his best and top bet for this card. But he's back. Dave, continue with that fight. We were able to hear you, but your camera froze a little bit. Tell us about final words about this fight, and after that, best bet for this card on Saturday.
Yeah. So the both guys are coming off losing streaks. Dan Hooker just had the living crap beaten out of him. just watching that fight back is going to affect a fighter alone. I think that's going to put a dent in his confidence. He's the smaller fighter. He needs to get inside the range of James Vick, which I just don't think he's going to be able to do. James Vick hasn't got the best record himself. He's also coming off a losing streak. He did pretty bad in his previous fight against Paul Fowler. As long as Vick can avoid the leg kicks, I think he could finish Dan Hooker or take a decision. Yes. When we're talking about styles, there's not much to go on. Both fighter has a good chance to come out victorious, but because of the odds and, Dan Hooker in that previous fight, I'll just have to side with James Vick. The odds are just off. They're just way off, and the fight should be a pick 'em. So with the odds and the probability, I'm just going to have to take James Vick. And I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes him either, because 4 of Hooker's previous 5 fights have all ended by knockout. And I've got to take James Vick here at 230 plus 130. I think that price I took at Betway. I'm not sure if the price has gone down. I feel like people might start putting a bit on James Vick, so there's a good chance that price could come down, but I'm not sure.
I will check till you are telling us your favorite bet of this card. The one that you will put 1 unit and your favorite bet of this card. I was telling to our friends here that next week we have the UFC 240.
Huge.
And with the main event, Max Holloway versus Frankie Edgar, and co-main event, Chris Cyborg and Felicia Spencer. But till I will search that set of odds for the previous fight that you're talking about, please give us your best bet for this card. We lost him again. I'm sorry, some technical problems from Dave. He's back. Okay, he's back.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. So your best bet for this Saturday card.
Right. I'm gonna do something that I've never done. I'm gonna give you guys every play that I'm going to take this weekend. There's not that many, so it will take me 30 seconds. Let's go. We've got Greg Hardy versus Joanne Adams. I'm going to put a unit on Greg Hardy to win at odds of 1.95. We have James Vick versus Daniel Hooker. I'm going to put half a unit on James Vick at 2.30. We have Alexander Hernandez versus Francisco Trinaldo. I am putting 1.61 units on Alexander Hernandez at 1.62. We have Walt Harris versus Aleksei Oleinik. I am going to put 1.49 units on Walt Harris at 1.76. And then we have the punching parlay, which is Jennifer Maia and Irene Aldana versus Raquel Pennington. The fight will go the distance. Them together gives us 2.30 on the decimal line. And then I have another parlay, a secret punching parlay, which is Felipe Corrales versus Domingo Pilate. And I have Pilate to win at 1.35. And then I have Jennifer Maia and Roxanne Modafferi, the fight to go the distance, 1.33. Combine them odds is 1.80. And I'm putting 1.25 units on that. So altogether, I'm risking around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, risking about 5.5, 6 units.
That's brilliant. I will ask you, we don't have a lot of time from this show. It's already past the hour that we are normally film. But I will ask you next week how you are putting 1.49 units on a play. This makes me think about that. But you will tell me why next week 1.4.
There's a method to the madness, trust me.
1.61 units. That's crazy, man. But anyway, can't wait to hear your answer next week. Best of luck with this card. Hopefully, the punching parlay will hit this week. But if it doesn't, many other plays will do. I'm sure about that. Thank you very much, Dave, for joining us today, and see you
Thank
next
you,
week.
brother.
Best of luck.